Okay, I'm here with Wanda Austin, and this is a real special treat that we've got. We've got Wanda in California. I'm actually from California, but I'm pretty far away. I'm glad that she is there, and we're here at the South Summit. And Wanda, tell us about your time at the Aerospace Corporation. You were, I understand, the first woman to be the CEO of that corporation. You have an amazing history before that. In terms of the Aerospace Corporation pushing the boundaries of innovation, what can you tell me about that?
Thank you, and I'm delighted to be able to join you today. My time at the Aerospace Corporation was wonderful because one of the things that I realized early in my career was that it was important for me to work someplace where they were always interested in new ideas. And that's exactly what I found.
And I know for a lot of people, when they think of nonprofit, they don't necessarily think of bleeding edge in terms of, so what was the model that made it work so well there?
What made it work is the fact that early in the space business, the US government realized that they needed technical advisors. They needed smart people who could help them to vet the innovative ideas that were being brought forward. But that organization then could not compete for those opportunities and for that work. And so that's how the nonprofit model works, in the sense that you have access to all of the state-of-the-art technological opportunities, and you get to do the research to understand what works and what doesn't. But you don't get to compete for the work to actually monetize and make a product.
And what's the secret to recruiting these like best-in-class people and keeping them?
The secret is the work. I would tell you myself, I wouldn't have told my boss at the time, but I was having so much fun that they didn't need to pay me. The reward comes in the people that you're working with, who are all best in class, the fact that you're working on the leading edge of technology, you're doing things that have never been done before, and you have a really compelling mission, which is to understand this new region, this new area called space.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to think, why do people get paid to work at NASA? I'd do it for free, right?
Exactly. It's hard work, but it's wonderfully rewarding.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Wanda. What was the most amazing anecdote of your years at the Aerospace Corporation?
There were so many important things that happened. And probably the one that I refer to most often is that it's better to launch late and be successful than to launch on time and fail. And so the lesson here is you get anxious, particularly on a new idea, and you want to run forward. But the fact of the matter is, what's important is to make sure that you have learned the lessons that you needed to learn at every step of the phase, that you shouldn't skip steps. And so while you may have had a schedule in mind, it's much more important that you make sure that you've completed all the necessary steps before you go forward with your project, rather than rush to push the go button and then find out, oh gosh, I forgot to do something.
And that is such an important lesson that we teach our students all the time. And the other lesson that we tell them is, if you're going to fail, fail fast.
That's right. And get back up.
It's hard. It's hard to be innovative if you don't fail.
Well, you have to have a culture that recognizes the value of failure. If you have a failure and the first thing everyone does is conduct the search for the guilty, that stifles innovation. So you certainly want to have people who are taking reasonable risks, and they're mitigating the risks that they understand, and they build in margin for the risks that they don't. But sometimes you're going to fail, and each failure is a learning opportunity.
We're not trained for this uncertainty. We're trained for a predictable world.
Well, a predictable world that is financially stable, because one of the big uncertainties here is the financial way forward. So it's a challenge for every business, for every university, even for every student, because you thought you knew what your 4 years were going to be and how it was going to lay it out and what you were going to be doing. And suddenly you found yourself at a point where you need to pivot and recognize that you will not have certainty about what the next 6 months or maybe what the next 12 months look like. And so nonetheless, you have to make decisions. So I think this is a key point of leadership as well, which is even when you have uncertainty, you still have to make decisions.
The next thing I want to talk about, we're at a time today where our country is in mourning because of the death of RBG. And the incredible life that she had, and everything she did for rights, for equal rights, and especially for women. Yours is an incredible, or must be an incredible, personal journey. Is there anything you'd like to share with us in terms of your personal journey?
I would tell you that my journey was not a straight line. It was more of a random walk where I would try things, figure out what I learned from it, figure out what I'd like from it, and try to figure out, what's the next thing I can do that continues on in that direction. It was certainly, as an African American girl growing up in the 60s, not an environment where people were running up to me saying, what you should plan to be is to be the CEO of a research and development corporation. But nonetheless, I had the opportunity for education. And my parents made sure that I took advantage of that. And that opened doors. I didn't know which doors I really wanted to go through, but it made sure that there were doors available for me to walk through. And I think, for me, that's the key lesson that I try to give back today, which is make sure that we're educating our young people and giving them access to science, technology, engineering, and math, because that's better for everyone.
You took advantage, or you looked at every opportunity as it came. A lot of students ask me things like, how much can you plan your professional life? And I think planning is difficult, and it reminds me of there's a word in Hawaiian that's holo holo, and it means that the destination is not so important. It's the journey.
Yes. Enjoy the journey. So many times people are racing to get to the next point. They forget to enjoy where they are right at that particular time. What I tell young people when I talk to them about their career is, that they're fortunate that they live at a time when they're likely to work until they're 70 or 75. So if you get started at 20, that gives you a 55-year span in which you can do several different things very well. So don't feel panicked about making the right decision forever. Make the right decision for now, and then you reevaluate and you make the next decision to decide what happens next and where you go. But there is a sense of urgency of somehow I need to know, how this all ends when I'm 20. And I think you miss the opportunity to just experience a little bit.
You've been closer to space as an industry than most people will ever dream of. What do you think is the future of space? And as, entrepreneurs, as, people out there trying to do a startup or students, what should our relationship be with space? Because you hear a lot about space, and most people are talking about space tourism. But what should we really be thinking about with respect to space? Is it the last frontier?
I think it's not the last frontier, because oceans is another area that there's still plenty to be explored, I think. But I think it appeals to the explorer in each of us, that there are so many unknowns, that we don't fully understand what are the things that we could do from space easily that we struggle to do here on Earth because of the limitations of gravity. I'm an advocate for space tourism. In full disclosure, I'm on the board for Virgin Galactic, and I think that the fact that the average person will get the opportunity to experience space is a wonderful thing. But I also realize that space offers an opportunity for us to really understand our own planet and to understand what's happening in our solar system so that we can make better decisions.
Because technology is one of those things that sometimes intimidates people in terms of how far they think they can go. Now, you've been running a company in the past that has been pushing the boundaries, as we said, of technology. What advice do you give an entrepreneur in the technology business?
The advice that I would offer is to make sure that you have a simple story. that you can communicate. And we always talk about the elevator pitch. So it's got to be short, it's got to be crisp, but it has to get to the so what. So what has changed because of your invention? What's going to be better? What's going to be different? Why is this going to be exciting? And if you can tell that story in a relatively short period of time in a compelling way, people will be interested and they will want to hear more, and they'll invest the time to understand what you're doing.
Well, Wanda, it's been a real pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And I hope that I get a chance someday to, visit Virgin Galactica or one of these other cool places, because, space makes me dream. And I think we all need to dream once in a while.
I think dreams are important. When we stop dreaming, we're in trouble. But thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you. I wish you well. I wish everyone good health, and stay safe.